Hello, and welcome back to the Better Divorce Podcast. You might know who I am, Paulette Rigo, but just in case you don't, I'm the CEO and founder of Better Divorce Academy, and author of #1 best-selling book and workbook, Better Divorce Blueprint. It's an 8-chapter book that will walk you from confusion to conclusion, and the companion workbook gives you a place to write down all of your thoughts and feelings and resources, tools, and best steps, hence a blueprint, so you can divorce with dignity, wisdom, and grace. Today, I'm going to tackle a topic that is brought up to me. Excuse me. I was playing tennis this morning and screaming. So my voice sounds like I was at a rock concert, but I wasn't. So not screaming, but you know when you're out there and you have to project your voice. But so many times I have a client come to me and say, I can't get divorced. How am I going to support myself? I can't get divorced. I don't know anything about my finances. I can't get divorced. I'd have to go back to school, or whatever their, long list of feelings are. And they're all valid. But I always challenge them to say, well, I understand your fear, but let's tackle it. I myself have done it, but it isn't my forte. I used to do a lot of business coaching, but I do not have time and the energy right now because I'm in the trenches with couples staying out of court as a private mediator and a certified high conflict divorce coach, where I am with clients who are litigating and they really need the help to get through it with wisdom. So today I am going to introduce you to a fabulous woman I met a few years ago. Her name is Randall Ray, and she's done the corporate thing, and she's going to tell you all about that. But now she's a business strategist and an empowerment coach. So welcome to the show, Randall. I'm so glad you're here with me.
Hi, Paulette. Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor.
You're welcome. When we met a few years ago, I was a guest speaker at an event at a law firm, speaking about the ways to kind of avoid litigation. And not that litigation is bad. Some of us have to do it. But and there was a lovely woman there, Lauren Tanksley, who's a CDFA that I work with a lot. And
Yep.
many other professionals. And it was a wonderful event, both virtual and in person. Because you remember the days when we were all not supposed to talk to each other because we had to keep our 6-foot distance. So you were there. It was entertaining, but also with a wine. And it was
Yes.
interesting because I had also learned about Scout and Cellar, and we don't need to turn it into a conversation about wine, although why not? We love it.
Why not? Right.
Why not? As the silly motto goes. And I saw the entrepreneurial spirit in you, only to find and learn that you had this corporate job. So tell us a little bit about your backstory, why you do the work you do, and what would make a woman like yourself go from corporate into that safety net, right? That
Yes.
kind of cocoon of corporate, all-encompassing
hmm
safety to the world of an entrepreneurship.
Yes. No, corporate has its benefits for sure. I don't want to take away from great health care, 401ks, everything like that. That is important. But I will backtrack a little bit because our meeting really just comes full circle for my entire life, I feel, because since I was 10 years old, if you asked me what I wanted to do, it was to be a divorce lawyer. So that's what I set out to do in life. I went to law school, I graduated, and then at, the young age in my early 20s, I just thought, I'm going to try to do something else. Law will always be there. And I have no regrets. My law degree still comes in handy, but I wanted to explore other areas. So while figuring out my career path, that is when I actually embarked on my first entrepreneurial journey, a business that I ran for 5 years and was very near and dear to my heart. But while working on that, that is when corporate America actually picked me up. I was with a Fortune 500 company for the last 6 years. However, I've always had that itch to do more and to have my own thing. And one thing that I'm incredibly grateful for is the company that I was with really did embrace the entrepreneurial spirit of their employees. So I was still able to exercise that in many different ways. But so when we connected, I was working on my wine business at the time, which I still do on the side. But I was very intrigued by what you did as a divorce coach. And I really have you to thank because as you mentored me, it really started me on this coaching path that leads me to being a business strategist and empowerment coach for current and aspiring female founders. So I am now a 3 going on 4-time entrepreneur. And there is nothing that I love more than a woman that has a business idea and is ready to get started. I think it's so empowering, so important, as you mentioned, especially these women that are in such uncertain times. This is something that they can really take control of, that they, are in charge of every aspect of their business, of their life, whether they need flexibility with work schedules, whether they need additional streams of income, whatever the case may be, it is something for them that nobody can take away.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you mentioned that the taking control, and I want to go back to that, but I do remember that conversation also at a meeting we had at the Buckhead Club, where
Mm-hmm.
we met in town because we're both Atlantans now.
Yep.
And I was just struck by your story about applying to law school, going to law school, and then making the decision about, you know what? With all this knowledge that I have and a lot of hard work, and I have a lot of friends who are attorneys, so I feel firsthand, I understand what that process is like. Not that I've lived it vicariously, maybe a little more than I did, hanging
Yes,
out.
you know the legal field well, for sure.
Do, but I didn't apply to law school. I did not go to law school. I did not do that. Maybe in my next life, that will be I remember as a young woman, it did spark some interest, but interesting how that is. But I remember that meeting that we had where I was so intrigued by you having the courage to say, even though I made this decision, I'm going to pivot. It
Mm-hmm.
is not easy to do. We feel like you make your bed, you've got to lie in it. Naturally, the next step would have been, to follow that path, that trajectory of after completing law school, bar, firm, practice, the course.
Right.
And the fact that whether that was a silent decision or you had other people helping you make the decision, but keeping true to that innate voice of the soul that jumped
Mm-hmm.
out at you and said, wait, what are you doing? And made you
Yep.
address your life and look at it from a different lens, a different mindset, and a different view. We, as humans, typically go for the safe, right?
Yes.
What is the guarantee? What is it I'm going to do? Now, there's risk in everything, but getting in the car and driving down the street is risky. I mean, getting in a plane, all these things we do normally that have some risk involved. So I
Mm-hmm.
don't mean that kind of risk, but we all make decisions based on certainty versus uncertainty, risk
Yep.
versus reward, right? Those are all of the kind of key strategies in life of like, what's the risk and reward of this? What's the certainty and uncertainty? Now, career is one of them. What are you going to
Mm-hmm.
pick as a career? How are you going to invest your finances in relationships, right? I mean, how are you going to know when you're 17, when you're getting, dating someone in high school, that this is going to be your life partner? A cold feet, it happens to most people. In my line of work, I speak to people every day about their marriages, their relationships, their family dynamics, and ultimately the course of their divorce. And it always comes up in the sense of, this isn't what I wanted. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
didn't know the marriage wasn't going to work. We fell in love, and that was just that was supposed to be enough, right? And I think that happens a lot with a career, right? You pick the
Hmm.
college you're going to go to, you pick the major you're going to go to, and if you're getting straight F's, maybe you should pivot, right? But if you're kind of
Right.
doing the like normal thing and getting decent grades and going along for the ride, it just makes logical sense that most people don't pivot. But
Yeah.
I kudos to you for having that. So let's
Thank
talk a
you.
little bit. Well, you're welcome. Putting aside the corporate experience, and it has its ups and downs, as does entrepreneurship.
Yeah,
But tell
for
us
sure.
a little bit about, how you help women, and I shouldn't just say women, but let's just pick on women today, start their own business.
And that is my focus. I mean, I wouldn't turn away a man, but I market myself towards women wanting to start their own
Sure.
business.
And Randall, I did as well because 70% of divorce is initiated or filed by women. So naturally, when I
Wow.
heard that, I know everyone, seriously, I think it's more like 73%, but who cares? There might be days when it's 65%, but on
Sure.
average, about two-thirds, and more than three-quarters of divorce almost is initiated, filed by women. And
Wow.
we could have another conversation about why that is. But so naturally, I assumed that all of my clients would be women. And I was
Hmm.
wrong in the sense that I branded everything pink and butterflies, which of course I'm a pretty girly thing. But I realized when the phone started ringing and it was men saying, "Hey, I read about your work. I understand your journey. Your reviews are amazing. I have friends that have worked with you, blah, blah, blah. Do you work
Hmm.
with guys?" And I immediately was like, yeah, I guess so. I mean, isn't the other half a dude, right? So for straight marriage at least,
Hmm.
Um, so I was realizing that it isn't just. But back to careers, I think women have a different, sure, just gut feeling about,
Hmm.
am I, when I get married, or if, it's not even if I get married, it's when I get married, when I
Yeah.
have children, will I be that stay-at-home mom, or will I be the corporate executive that goes off to the workforce, or will I
Hmm.
be an entrepreneur? It didn't used to be a conversation that women had. It was just assumed that you would have a career, and then you'd get married, and then you'd have children, and you'd likely forego your career for the family. Now, nothing
Hmm.
wrong with that, nothing right about it, nothing horror. I mean, I think I think it's right. I didn't mean it from a judgmental point of view. I think it's actually how we build very strong family dynamics for that period of time when kids are little, particularly. But it's a choice now, that most women
Hmm.
didn't used to have. My mother was an entrepreneur. My grandmother was an entrepreneur. My great grandmother was an entrepreneur. So I didn't ever get to meet her though, but I've heard the rumors that I never knew that women shouldn't be entrepreneurs or,
Right.
working. And
Hmm.
now it's just sort of a given. In fact, if you've got to pay the bills with the way the expenses are now, the average home price of
Right.
$414,000, and that's the average as of yesterday, 2024 in June. You've got to make a minimum back in 2021 of $82,000 a year to afford a house. But now with the new price, it's $125,000 a year.
Hmm.
And you've got to have a good credit score and a low debt to income ratio.
Yeah.
So how the hell, pardon my, I don't know if that's French or not, um, do you afford that before, during, or after divorce,
Right.
unless you really do have that education, that resume that
Hmm.
makes you stand above the others.
Which so
Now,
many people don't.
exactly. So that's where I see entrepreneurship, whether that be a side hustle or starting a
Yes.
job that really is more fulfilling. I see it every day and I'm asked this a lot. So let's take your strategy here. How do you take someone that comes to you in any stage,
Hmm.
whether they're new to entrepreneurship or they have been a seasoned professional for a bit? How do you
Yeah.
help them? Give us some foundational strategy tips for how they would conceptualize getting started?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a couple of different clients that we could discuss here. So the first one that I want to talk about is the one that knows that they want something more, probably isn't fulfilled in their corporate career or whatever job it is that they have, doesn't can't imagine the next 30, 40 years of their life until retirement being in this 8 to 5, 9 to 5 cycle. So they know they want something more, but they have no idea where to start. And that is, I love that person, because I am a firm believer that there is not a single person walking this planet that does not have a unique skill that cannot be turned into a business. Now, whether or not they want to pursue that is a completely different story. So I have some exercises, and I actually have a free download on my Instagram called Unlocking Your Entrepreneurial Potential. And it takes you through a series of questions about, what can you talk about all day long? I don't care how silly or how trivial it is, because if you ask me my two favorite things in the world, dogs and wine. And I have turned both of those into very lucrative side businesses in one capacity or another. So I don't like to hear that it's too silly. I don't like to, hear that it's trivial. But then we also have so many things that we've overcome that we can pivot into helping others. And your story is such a testament to that. I use you as an example in that free guide on Instagram, somebody that has overcome such adversity in your divorce process, and look at what you've turned it into in this phenomenal company that you've built, and there's millions of other women out there with similar, things that they've overcome, that they too can pivot to a business, or it can be a hobby that they really, really love. I've been talking to a friend, I joked her, I was like, can I pivot and kind of be your coach and not your friend, and of course I'm not going to charge her. She's one of my best friends. But she's thinking of starting a true crime podcast with a focus on crimes of people of color that have not been as showcased in the media, so this is just a passion of hers. This is just something she likes to watch and listen to at home that can easily be pivoted and turned into a business. So of course we'll first figure out the what, and then there's the why and the how, and the logistics. And that's where, as a business coach, I'm really with you every step of the way throughout that process.
It is really a nice way to word it, where you say unlocking your entrepreneurial potential, particularly after divorce, because that's where you really start to feel you question every part of yourself. Who am I? Every cell in your body feels different. Every aspect of your life changes due to divorce. The psychological, mental, emotional, physical, sexual, spiritual side of you, the mushy side, but yet the judicial, legal, financial, residential, lending, insurance, taxes, career side of you can also change. So it's almost like starting from ground zero, right? Like planting a seed and starting over. And to some, that's terrifying.
Yes.
And to others, it's inspiring. I'm making up words today. And liberating. I think I took inspiring and liberating and made a word. I do that. Paulettisms, I like to call them. Inspiring and liberating to others, where they feel unencumbered and unburdened by what they used to do, whether it be a career, and we don't want to throw away the baby with the bathwater. We want
Of
to
course.
what works and bring that with you, right? And kind of lay it on the line. But it's so true about that phrase, unlocking, because it does feel locked up. It's in the closet. I can't address or work through that part of me that needs more development, more attention, because it's selfish to put time and energy and money and effort into developing the self because I have children to provide for and children to nurture and to take care of. And I have a spouse to, spend time and love and nurture. But then divorce happens and you're like, you look like the deer in the headlight, right? Like, and it makes you question every aspect of your life. So think of that as like something like a little locked part of you that you finally have the key for. I like
Right.
to think of it as like four little categories. Like, what is it I love to do that I'm good at? What is it I
Mm-hmm.
love to do that I'm not so good at? Because you can work on that. What is
Yep.
it I hate to do that I'm good at? And what is it I hate to do that I'm bad at? And kind of make
Mm-hmm.
a list in those four categories. And it really helps you get clear on naturally the things you hate to do that you're bad at, you might need to delegate.
Yeah.
Right? If we're really bad at something and we don't like doing it, I
Right.
wouldn't put energies into that. And then looking at those other three categories is what is it that you're bad at, but you still love to do? That's called
Mm-hmm.
education and practice and skills, like me in tennis. I'm not so good at it. So, things came natural because I grew up as a dancer and I'm coordinated and all that, but I don't know, I'm not competitive. So like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, I missed it. Oh, well, whereas some people, um,
Right.
I remember in sports in school, like we'd have to play volleyball or something. I'd be like, oh, you want the ball? Here, have it. I don't want it. So, um, and then of course, things that you love to do that you're still
Mm-hmm.
not so good at yet, but focus in on those things you love to do that you're good at. And what
Mm-hmm.
happens sometimes in, marriage and career and children and life is we forget, our
Right.
potential, like what it is. So walk somebody through that a little bit more. So how do you help them narrow down, because let's say they have 40 things on their list. I mean,
Yes.
you and I joked about dogs and wine, and I could
Mm-hmm.
take my camera and show my puppy on the floor right now. Here you go, everybody, right there she is. And Randall could do the same because she has a couple
Yep.
behind
I'm
her.
pet sitting right now. Mm-hmm.
So they're
And I,
there.
you don't hear
And
there. One is incessantly whining.
I don't
It
hear
never
it's okay.
fails. Okay, good.
And
Good, good, good.
it's a little early for wine, so we're drinking water. But at the
Right.
moment, so finding those things that you love. So, what is it that you can advise? Because it's all well and good for
Mm-hmm.
us to talk about these things, but
Mm-hmm.
what's the sabotaging behavior? What are those things that get in the way of women getting really clear on those, narrowing it down? Because they say they have 20 things on their list. They can start 20 jobs. Now,
Right.
the other thing is, what if they have nothing because they don't think they're good at anything? It's
Mm-hmm.
hard to kind of zero in on that. So walk us through a
Exactly.
little bit of that.
So if they have nothing, we sort of already touched on that. That's where the unlocking your entrepreneurial potential comes in. That's where we're going to talk about all these things. Again, free guide, you can do it on your own, but as your coach, we can really have those conversations. And because this is what I do, I'm likely going to notice something in you that you're probably not seeing in yourself. So you're probably going to start lighting up when you start talking about something, or just start on
Mhm.
this tangent and realize there's no end in sight. And I'm going to say, that's probably what you should be doing. So there's that. But then there's also the woman that has, like you said, 20 ideas. And I love that too, because sky's the limit. And as a 4-time entrepreneur, I'm not going to tell you to stick to just one, but I am going to help you narrow it down, prioritize, and maybe go with the most realistic path. So is this something that you're starting as a passion project, because it's just you have the time and the flexibility. And to your earlier point, maybe the child support and alimony, so finances aren't a concern. Then great. Maybe you want to go with what you're most passionate about first. If you, however, are trying to leave, your corporate career or start bringing any income in, maybe you didn't previously have to work, then we have to be a little bit more realistic about what the most lucrative path is. And from there, we can do a market analysis, we'll look at competitors, we'll run through the whole gambit, to really figure out what is going to help you achieve your personal goals quickest. And that's different for everybody, so that's where I love being able to offer one-on-one coaching and really take a tailored approach with my clients because it's completely different for everybody.
Mm. And it is different. I also challenge the conversation. I'm curious how you feel about this, but I do hear, oh, no, 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 I don't want a store. I don't want a brick and mortar. I don't want a business. And,
Mm-hmm.
like, I think a lot of women love to cook,
Mm-hmm.
or they immediately think, oh, catering, or to have a food
Sure.
truck, or to have a restaurant. And there's a lot involved in that. It
A
isn't just
lot. Yeah.
go out and buy a few pots and pans or use the stuff you have in the kitchen and get that all going up. But it's the three categories. So would it be a brick and mortar, like actual
Mm-hmm.
storefront, or would it be an online virtual business, or would it be a
Right.
hybrid? Where maybe you have a product that you sell online, but you also could do pop-up shops and some sort
Yeah.
of, I don't want to call it brick and mortar, shall we say canvas? Thinking of something a little less substantial than bricks,
Right.
something you can, a little more transient, but it is still something that you can sell in person, like the trade shows.
Mm-hmm.
There's different options in having a business now. And it isn't just product or service,
Right.
looking at it from the whole gamut. So do you find when you're working with clients that they know how they see it looking, or is that also an overwhelming thought as well?
No, I find that most people change their mind, which I
Mm,
think is wonderful. I believe it is just as important to figure out what's not going to work for you as much as it is to figure out what it
mm,
is. So I just had a client recently. She came to me. She wanted to start something in product management. That's another thing that we haven't touched on yet that so many people don't consider is what are you doing in your corporate job? Those are tangible skills that you can pivot into your own offering, just as, a consultant or whatever the case may be. So that is what she initially came to me and wanted to do and was starting it and was doing okay. And just a couple weeks in, realized her heart was not in it. This is not what was going to, because entrepreneurship is hard, especially while you're working in corporate America. I did that for years, and you really have to have the discipline and the dedication, but also be working on something that brings you joy
mm,
to want to put in those long hours, to want to work on, excuse me, um, to want to work on the weekends and everything like that. So a couple of weeks in, she realized that wasn't going to be for her. And instead she pivoted to where her passion is and started her own, actually on the topic of cooking. I think it's called the Sage Kitchen, a virtual meal prep for people that are gluten and dairy free.
mm. That's a great point. It isn't just the category, like cooking, for example, but
Mm-hmm.
narrowing it down to a very specific area of cooking,
Yep.
whether that be a skill you have, a hobby you love, an interest you have, you want to spread or share with others, or a problem you solve. It's
Yep.
looking at what people are currently doing that isn't working and how you can help them do it better or
Yep.
different, faster, spend less money. And that's the solution I offer with divorce is
Mm-hmm.
traditionally you lawyer up, you put down your retainer. Lord knows I did. Is that $5,000? Is it $25,000? Is it more? Probably in some locations, and depending on your case. And that's just half of it because then your partner has to put down the other half. And then the natural course of effect is petition and response in discovery, interrogatories, hearing, meetings, mediation that's court appointed or part of the
Mm-hmm.
dedicated journey. And an average divorce now is about 12 months. It could be a
Wow.
little bit shorter, it could be a lot longer, but that's a long time and a lot of
Mm-hmm.
money and contentiousness to spend not only the money, but the time, the energy that you feel. You're not going to have the time to think about a career during
Right.
that. So
Right.
you take that problem and you offer a solution, or I help my clients avoid court altogether. avoid
Mm-hmm.
all unnecessary legal fees, and typically divorce in less than 90 days. And in
Wow.
one sentence, they know exactly what I do. So you have to look at that, ladies. What is the problem out there?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I can't make divorce go away. I mean,
Exactly.
we're not looking to solve gluten tolerance. We're not going to look at waving a magic wand and making all people not gluten intolerant because, well, that would be a miracle. But maybe that's all about science and all that. But you can make their lives less difficult, right?
Mm-hmm.
Eating gluten free is not easy
Yeah.
unless you don't ever leave your house. And even then, it could be challenging. So, and it's very expensive and it's time consuming, right? So,
Yes.
take any problem we have, we could list every problem in the world, and the tighter, the better, right? What
Yeah.
is the very specific problem that you have? And with my clients, which is why I wanted to have you on, it's the whole idea of starting a business to begin with. It's
Mm-hmm.
terrifying.
It's
I'm not
so
good
overwhelming. Yes.
at it. I can't do it. I'm not smart enough. And breaking down those fear barriers. So
Mm-hmm.
now, when you work with someone, what is the normal amount of time? And forgive the word normal, the
Mm-hmm.
usual amount of time that you find it takes from them initially reaching out to you to the time that they feel like they might have a good solid plan or they've even launched the business? How long should they expect that to take?
It really depends because does the person, are they coming to me with an idea and they just want, that accountability partner to get them through the logistics? We can set up 3 sessions and just kind of go, go, go. Also, are you wanting to meet on a weekly basis? Are you wanting to meet on a monthly basis? Right now, I'm able to offer a very flexible approach, also for affordability. Maybe they can only afford 3 sessions, but if they want to stretch that out over 3 months, that's perfectly okay. I do recommend meeting on more of a biweekly basis. I find that that's a pretty good cadence in terms of giving the client time to get their tasks and goals done in between sessions and, not feel too rushed meeting on a weekly basis. But one thing I do with all of my clients is, are you familiar with the Wheel of Life?
I am. I love the wheel of life.
I do too. So it's, about 8 different areas, aspects of your life. And unbeknownst to them, in my intake form and my questionnaire, they're ranking each one on a scale of 1 to 10. So when I'm able to look at that, I'm able to see like, okay, if we're sevens and aboves in 7 of the areas, and it's just maybe finances and career that you want to focus on, that's maybe at that 2 or 3, which is why you want to start your own business, you're probably ready to go, go, go. Whether it's 3, 6, 12 sessions, it totally depends, like I said, on if they already have an idea, stuff like that. And then also what the business is. Are we starting an online business? Are we starting a brick and mortar? Two very different things with many different factors to consider. So, that particular person might be ready to knock it out more quickly. However, and likely more applicable to the listeners here that may be going through a divorce or a significant transitional time in their life, if their areas are at threes, fours, fives, and, most of these aspects of life, which is completely understandable and okay, what that tells me, because I've also been certified as a life coach, is that as much as we are going to focus on the business aspect, there's probably going to be some other things that creep in, that we need to touch on, that we need to focus on, some of those limiting beliefs, some of those underlying blockers, and that's where kind of the empowerment part of my coaching comes into play. We're not just going to gloss over that. We're not just going to skip over that. If you're consistently not meeting your goals, we're going to take a step back. We're going to discuss it and we're going to work through it. So it really depends on each individual person.
Mm. Yeah, I would find when I was doing a little bit of this work with helping women write books, I find that many women
Mm-hmm.
like to write books. It started after writing birth stories when I was a birth doula. And then it transitioned to women wanting to write their divorce story.
Mm-hmm.
Their, for a little bit of cathartic therapy, but it also turned into really fabulous books. Um,
Hmm.
that it's intimidating when you say we're going to do this in 3 months, or
Right.
we're going to do this in 7 days, or we're going to take two and a
Yes.
half years. So it does need to be fluid. I agree with you. I
Hmm.
do believe, though, that most people need that accountability. So, like,
Yep.
it will take us 1 month to accomplish X, and it will
Yes.
take us 2 months to accomplish Y, and it will take us 3 weeks to
Hmm.
accomplish Z. Even if it's a little fluid, at least they have that parameter. I know when I'm mediating, I say we have three options. We could do 1 month, 3 months, or 6 months. 1 month is
Hmm.
might fit this criteria, 3 months for this, and so on. And it just helps
Hmm.
them go, oh, well, I need the 3 month then. So I know that in my work, in my own life, if I don't have at least a rough idea of how long things will take, most people
Hmm.
just quit because it's too scary. When I tell them the
Yep.
average litigated divorce is a year,
Right.
they're like, oh, I'll just stay married.
Yep.
It's going to cost 50 grand. They're like, oh, I'll just stay married. And sometimes that's an option, but
Hmm.
it's scary. And I also want to shift a segue a little bit here of knowing we're helping a startup or initiating that business and launching it and helping them scale to the point where they know that their freedom metric or how much they need to make per month, whether that be
Hmm.
$1,000, $5,000, $10,000, $50,000, 100, whatever you need to make each month. I don't mean want, but need to like break even,
Right.
pay your bills, right? Because want is always a nice thing, but let's just deal with the need first. So they can actually realize that this isn't an expensive hobby, but it's a business, right? So
Hmm.
when you're making a profit, and yes, you have to, you're going to file your taxes anyway, even if you lost money, but you're still in that mode of this is a business versus it's an expensive hobby.
Right.
Yeah. Do you see that of not starting a hobby, but starting a
Hmm.
business mindset?
I think, like I said, I think it depends on each individual's personal goals. Sometimes a business is started out more as a hobby or, just something fun on the side. I mean, my dog sitting, for example, that was just something I did because I liked dogs. And when I had mine, I enjoyed him having a playmate. Now it's unintentionally turned into one of my, biggest businesses where I'm booked literally daily with a wait list. And I love it, but it certainly didn't start out that way, so like I said, I think it really depends. And I do goal setting with my clients, if their goal is to break free of corporate America, or if their goal is to start their own business so they don't have to get another job, as they're going through the divorce process or whatever, that's going to be completely different than, like I said, the client that has the child support and alimony and is just looking to fill her days, which there's absolutely nothing wrong with that either.
Right. I had one client that I coached through it, and she did want to start a business. It was about
Mm-hmm.
safe dating.
Hmm.
It's very interesting. I'm always intrigued by the conversations we have with getting through divorce. And what are you going
Yeah.
to do now? Should I change my name? Safe dating, and of course that came up with, or how are you going to pay your bills, and how are you going to invest the money that you have? How are you going to move forward with your life? And I also want everyone to my takeaway from this conversation, in my own example of being a serial entrepreneur, is that one business can morph into another one, a more
Absolutely.
successful one, a more clear one. So even
Hmm.
if you decide with Randall or yourself on a whim, or you have a dream, and make note of those dreams. Dreams are very interesting when it comes to vision and having
Hmm.
a clear picture of what it is you're doing. What is the problem you're solving? How are you helping people? How are you contributing to the betterment of society versus
Yeah.
adding to the drama of it? But if I had known back when I started my first business on my own, um, where I had decided to become a birth doula. And I had had a birth doula with my first, not my first child, but my second.
Hmm.
And it made a big difference. My 18-hour labor went down to 3 hours.
Wow.
Instead of pushing for 3 hours, it was like, oh, here he is, here's the baby. I'm like, what are you doing here so early? You're supposed to take 3 hours. So it was so much more empowering. And I thought
Hmm.
to myself when I was giving labor, someday when I have nothing better to do with my life or myself, I'm going to, of course, this was in 1994. It wasn't until the 2010 I had this conversation. Well, I had the conversation then. I'm going to give back and become a birth doula. And lo and behold,
Hmm.
I did. Um, I never consciously thought it would be a career, but I named
Right.
it authentic birthing, and I was booked, and I did it full time for 3 years, and I really loved
Hmm.
it. And then that morphed into lactation consulting. I did not have an easy time breastfeeding. So helping with that, which morphed into the next career and the next career and the next career and the next career. I just give you that as an example. Now,
Hmm.
I'm no longer a birth doula. I mean, I guess I could, if somebody went into labor somewhere, I would help. I know what I'm doing,
Right.
but I'm not accepting clients. Although when I see somebody with a new baby, I'm like, oh, or like it's such an honor to be asked to be in the labor and delivery room with someone.
Of
It just
course.
as it's an honor to be asked to be in the court with somebody and to have
Hmm.
that sort of vulnerability. And it's an honor to have someone trust you to help them nurture and create the next chapter of their life. It's a big responsibility and one I don't hold lightly, whether that be birthing, career, divorce. It is truly an honor. So I hope everybody has taken something from this conversation. If you are even thinking, dreaming about having your own business, your own career, your own entrepreneurial journey, uh, try to take from this that you can unlock that part of yourself that maybe you haven't thought about. What's been
Hmm.
hidden under the bed, swept under the rug, or shoved in the closet too long, and think
Yeah.
about reaching out. So, Randall, what is the best way for people to learn more about you and to reach out? Dare I say, follow you? I don't mean stalking you, but get to know more about you, learn enough so they can engage in peeling away the sticker of what's underneath a part of them that has been stuck.
Yeah, absolutely. No, the best way is on Instagram. I am at the Randall Ray. On there, you can book a complimentary consultation, download Unlocking Your Entrepreneurial Potential. Also, love connecting with people on LinkedIn as well.
Perfect. LinkedIn and Instagram, and it's all in the show notes. If you don't have a pen, it's all in there. So, Randall, thank you. I love to witness women blossom and become the best versions of themselves. And I firsthand watched the transformation of you from when we first met. I'm going to
Yeah.
say 4 years ago, right? It was about
Hmm.
4 years ago to where you are now. And if you think you have this in you, reach out to Randall. Let her help you. Let her guide you. She has successfully gone from corporate to entrepreneurship, and so can you. So
Yes.
until next time, everybody, make it better. I'll see you soon.
Thank you so much for having